bhavatu sahanau bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we continue with the first lesson of the thematic study of the Bhagavad-gītā. But before we start, I would like to make a short overview of this Panchanga Nyaya thing that we're supposed to be not experts, but we're supposed to know about it. And because I had some understanding of this Panchanga Nyaya since many years, but last year we have studied the Nyaya Sutras by Gautama, by the mercy of our compilers, this wonderful study guide that we had. And there are, I mean, I'm sure also Chandra can attest with my understanding of this Panchanga Nyaya became better, deepened. And since we will use Panchanga Nyaya, it has been used in the study guide a lot. And then since also we have to try to train ourselves to think in this way, at least not all the time, but maybe at least while we study scripture or present scripture. So I wanted to make short introduction on this Panchanga Nyaya. So Pancha means 5, Anga means limbs, Nyaya means logic. Panchanga Nyaya explains the proper way of presentation of spiritual knowledge. How do you present knowledge? And also how you understand, of course, because you cannot present unless you understand something. So this is explained in the Nyaya school of Vedic thought. As we know, there are 6 sub-darshanas, they're called. There are 6 schools, 6 Vedic schools. We have what is called Nastika schools. These are the Buddhists, the Jains, the Charvakas. They don't accept the Vedas. Therefore, Buddhists are called atheists, only on the basis of non-acceptance of the Veda. They may even speak about soul or some spiritual things, but they're not accepted as theistic school because they reject the Vedas. Then these are the Nastika schools. We're speaking about Indian philosophy. And then there are Astika schools. Astika means literally, it is so. Vedas are correct. So inside these Astika schools, there are 6 of them. And Nyaya is the first one. They are usually studied in this way. Nyaya, they study in pairs. So Nyaya and Vaisheshika, then Sankhya and Yoga, and then Karma Mimamsa and Vedanta. So these are the 6 orthodox, you can say, Vedic schools which base their teachings on the Veda because they accept the Veda as pramana. Therefore, we have discussion just before the class. So the Nastikas, they have problem with this point, the first point, Amnaya Prata. The Vedas are the pramana, they don't accept the Veda as the pramana. But these 6 schools, they do. And the first one of them, Nyaya, establishes the proper way of thinking and of reasoning, of presenting the knowledge, understanding the knowledge. And although it has been developed by these Nyaya people, well, first of all, in the beginning, not in the beginning, There is no beginning. Traditionally, in the previous ages, these 6 schools were just part of the Vedic philosophy, you can say. So they were unified. There were just different aspects, different departments of knowledge. Just like in university, if you study, for example, law, then you have different departments. You study civil law, then you study constitutional law, so many things. Trgovačko pravo, merchants law, whatever. But there is actually one thing you study, but they're just different departments. So they don't contradict one another. So these 6 schools, originally, they were just part of the greater Vedic academy. And they were elucidating, elaborating on different aspects of Vedic knowledge. Logic, Nyaya, then atomic theory, Vaisheshika, then Sankhya, the analysis of the material world, then yoga, how to control the mind, what is the mind, what is the body, then Karma Mimamsa, how to perform sacrifice, how to be a pious person, and then Vedanta. After having done all of those, the Vedanta Sutra begins, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, after we have performed all these Vedic duties, now it's time to inquire about absolute truth, about Brahman, and to develop detachment and to go back home to God. So originally they were part of one unified understanding of the Veda. But in the course of time, when Kali Yuga began, then the representatives of these different schools, they developed what we call in ISKCON party spirit. You know what is party spirit? It's every man for himself. Don't follow authority. We do whatever we like to do, and this is what happened to them. So they started quarreling, started disagreeing, and gradually the common goal that they had was lost, and they all developed different siddhantas, different conclusions, and different. Well, they still had the same sadhana, basically. The culture was still the same. All of them rise early in the morning, all of them do their puja, or some of them are atheistic, of course. But the philosophical conclusion was lost, was became different through and contradiction. The conclusion of each and every school contradicted the other schools. So that's what happened. But originally they were one, and still, although they, in the course of time, they developed this, they deviated gradually. Still, there are some. They have some part of their teachings that are correct. All of them. For example, all of them accept that there is a soul, spirit soul, which is eternal. All of them accept that the goal of philosophy is to attain liberation from suffering. All of them accept the reincarnation, that there is a law of karma, like this. And this Panchanga Nyaya was developed mainly in this school, is accepted by our acharyas. So there are certain teachings that are accepted widely. For example, everybody does some type of yoga. This is the Patanjali school. The Mimamsakas, they have developed hermeneutics, they have developed the way, the knowledge, how to understand the Shastra. So our acharyas also accept these points. There are some points that I accept. So what I want to say is that this Panchanga Nyaya is accepted by our acharyas, by Jiva Goswami, Baladevi Vibhushan, and Srila Prabhupada also is using this system, although he doesn't specifically always emphasizes. So, in short, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says that no point can be accepted as authoritative unless it has gone through these 5 limbs of logic. no statement, no, it's called pratigya, technically, can be accepted unless it has been proven by this Panchanganya system. So it is very simple, straightforward. The first part of this 5 is called pratigya, which means thesis, and it is the point that you want to establish. Then the second part is called hetu, or reason. It gives the reasons why what you have said in the first part is true. Then the third part is called Adhikarana, which means examples. You give example how to, which will help the person that you're presenting this knowledge to understand what you're saying in the pratigya. So this example should be from his field of expertise, something that he can relate to. And then the fourth part is called Upanaya, just like Upanishad. Upanishad means what has been learned by the disciple when he stays close to his guru. Upanaya means it brings the discussion closer for understanding. I'll explain a little later what that means. Then the fifth part is called Nigamana, or conclusion, or basically you repeat what you have said in the beginning. And also there is usually quotations from Shastra which prove your point. Of course, you can say exactly what you said in the beginning of the discussion, or you can say, you can rephrase it so that it brings into account also the discussion that was held, so that you include all these points that you presented, and hopefully they were understood by the audience. So now the classical example for all this is so this is the pratigya, your thesis. There is fire on the top of the mountain. This is what you want to prove. This is what you want to establish. This is your thesis. There is fire on the top of the mountain. Then the second part, reason, is because there is a smoke. So this is the why there is fire on the mountain. So these first two are kind of theoretical. You just make these statements, and then the person is listening. And then usually he would develop a doubt. Why are you saying this? I don't see, let's say, I don't see fire. Why I should believe you? Then, therefore, the third part, where you give an example, is the part where you try to come in contact with this person, come closer to him, so that he can understand what he's saying. Therefore, you give an example from a field that he's familiar with. So the example is, when there is smoke, there is a fire, just like in the kitchen. So let's say this person is a cook, and he has been cooking, just like in Gurukula, the boys used to cook. So he cooks on fire, so he knows. And everybody is supposed to know, when there is fire, there is a smoke. So now he can connect the smoke and the fire already by his own experience. Now it's already a little easier for him to understand what is the connection. And then in the fourth part, very interesting. The fourth part is called Upanaya. Bringing it closer means you have stated your thesis, which is theoretical. He doesn't know, he doesn't understand, maybe. Then you have stated your reasons why what you said is true. Then you have given an example showing that there is connection that he knows about between fire and smoke. Now, here in the fourth one, you point out again there is smoke on the top of this mountain. Understand? Now there is smoke. On the top of the mountain. So now the example was from his own experience, let's say he's a cook over there. There is a connection between fire and smoke in your own field of activity, and then he'll say, yes, that's true. So now in the fourth one, you're pointing out to the reality right now in front of his eyes that he doesn't see, and you explain now the same thing that applies in the kitchen that you're familiar with applies right now in the case that we're discussing. On the top of the mountain, there is the same smoke. You see? You basically say the same thing, but the Adhikarana is from his own field of activity that he's familiar, and the top of the mountain and the smoke there is something unfamiliar to him. It's unknown. It's terra incognita. And now you just brought this nearer to him so that he can make the connection. And then after he has seen the connection between what you explain and what he knows, and he has made the connection with the reality right now in front of his eyes, then the fifth part is called Nigamana. Then you repeat again the first point. Therefore, there is fire on the top of the mountain because there is smoke. And then he will understand. Hopefully. So therefore, logic, for many years I was thinking that logic is predominantly for debate. You want to defeat the other person, you want to establish your own superiority. But when you study this Nyaya, you understand that actually logic is understood more as a communication tool. It is actually it is a expression of Krishna's compassionate nature, because he wants to explain all this spiritual knowledge, spiritual truth to us, and he wants to do it in a best possible way. Therefore, he has given this system of logic so that we can come in contact with people around us and give them superior knowledge and help them in this way. This is what logic is all about. It is not so much, although there is also this part of logic, how you can argue with someone, and how if somebody argues with you, how you can catch him if he's trying to manipulate you. There's also this part. But predominantly, it's not meant for this. It's meant to facilitate the dissemination of spiritual knowledge for the benefit of all living entities. It's an act of compassion. It's actually an emotional thing, although people usually accept logic as something very rational. Aristotle said that law is rational without emotion. And logic sometimes seems similar, but it is not. Originally, it is born out of the compassionate nature of the law. Because Krishna could have just give us what Dashma Tattva, this is the law, okay, go figure it out. He took the trouble as Vyasadeva to write so many books to facilitate us. So this is the Panchanga. So do you have some questions on this? Was it clear?
I remember that sometimes.
Yes.
I remember that sometimes it was also a part of expressing a doubt. If this exists, where it will be in this fight.
Yes. Usually after you say something, so this is the pratigya, and then you explain why. I mean, the doubt can come up already when you say something. People usually, sometimes they don't even wait for you to state your reasons. But usually it comes after the reason, after the head. Then in the mind, at least, the person, maybe he will not voice the doubt, but there will be some doubt. Why? Why there is fire on the top of the mountain? I don't see any fire. Why are you saying there is fire? Usually this is the part. It's not explicitly stated here, but the examples that you give are, and the Upanaya, the third and the fourth part, are actually meant to deal with the doubt, because the doubt will come up in the body, almost in all cases, because we don't have the first class intelligence usually. And even if you have first-class intelligence, people want to know why. So this is the place for the doubt. The other system, there is a specific doubt, but we're using this one. All right. Is this okay? So now, Adhikaranas, probably. You can turn it off. Now, thank you. So on the question of doubt, have you noticed sometimes Sri Prabhupada's purport, he presents a point, then he says, somebody may say, then he replies to the doubt. So here we will do the same. So now there is a doubt. At the beginning of Bhagavad-gita replies to two prominent doubts. Is there an eternal spirit soul different from the material body? If such soul exists, is it fully identical with Godhead? Purva-paksha. This is the objection. So now this is the doubt. And now for the doubt there is a reason why people are doubting. So they state the doubt, and then they give the reasons why I have this doubt. So this is the reason. The first doubt is connected to the atheistic philosophy of Charvaka. So Charvaka is this famous materialist who was saying that you should beg, borrow, or steal, but get ghee and eat nice, palatable vegetarian dishes. The followers of Charvaka maintain that consciousness is just another product of matter. He gives, by the way, the example of the betel leaf. When you chew it or grind it, then appears red color, which doesn't seem to exist in the betel leaf in the beginning. So he says, well, you see, in the same way, in the material nature, it doesn't seem to exist that there is a consciousness, but obviously it's there because at one point it appears spontaneously. In the same way, the red color is not in the betel, but it appears. Quite interesting. But it is there, it's just not manifested in the betel leaf. But the same you cannot say about the dead matter, therefore it's called dead matter. So the followers of Charvaka maintain that consciousness is just another product of matter. The second doubt refers to the Mayavada doctrine of Kevala-Advaita, exclusive monism. Why this exclusive monism? Is there any other type of monism? Are we also some kind of monists? Are we?
Yeah, how?
Okay, can you explain how?
Because we say that when it comes to quality, we are the same line of work, but when it comes to quantity,
right. So we are monists also, but we're not exclusive monists. We are Achinti Beda Beda Tattvas. We are the same as the Lord, but not exactly, not fully. So the Mayavadis claim that the soul and the super soul are identical in all respects. So these are the doubts. Now, in this Adhikarana, these doubts will be answered. It may sound a little funny how this is presented here. First, you have a doubt before even the book starts. You have a doubt, and then you have a reason for the doubt, and then. But this is how Balaji Bhushan also wrote Govinda Bhashi in the same way. So there is like something that he writes before Vedanta Sutra even begins, before the first sutra. And he explains what is the doubt. Then he says, okay, now this doubt is answered in the first Adhikarana, the first sutra, Atata Brahma Jigyasa. So we try to follow something similar.
Actually, it's very practical because you see, philosophy is not like something abstract, but rather something very practical. It addresses your
Doubts.
Your doubts, your misunderstandings.
Exactly. And it is a dialogue. It can be internal dialogue between you and your mind. We all have this. It can be also debated with somebody who has these doubts and is supposed to address the doubts. This is, by the way, one of the qualifications of the spiritual master. He's supposed to answer the doubts and to clear the doubts of the disciple, right? This is what Shastra says. Swadhara Maharaj used to say that this is like polishing the heart, because the doubts are like dark spots on the heart of the disciple. And then the disciple is supposed to come in front of the Guru and say, so, my Guru Maharaj, here are some, you see, there's some black spots here. Could you please take your transcendental knowledge, astra, weapon, and just polish them? Therefore, we ask questions. Asking inquiry, first of all, Bhagavad-gītā, and basically all Vedic Shastras, they begin with questions. There is an inquiry, there is interest to know something. And that's why there is explanation. Otherwise, if there is no question, there is no interest, there is nobody. The sages, they have other things to do. They don't have to sit there. They can just discuss among themselves. They don't have to collect views on social media, make podcasts. This is the original podcast, right? The Bhagavad-gītā. This conversation between two people, but other people are listening. Yeah. And it went for 7 days. So it is very important. Therefore, unless there is serious interest, and the Guru can ascertain that this person is actually serious, he actually wants to know, then there is no real transmission of knowledge. Yes.
What can be the reason of lack of interest?
So, very nice question. In Bhagavatam, the 4 Kumaras, I think, of the navigators, of these great sages, they explain that there is no greater obstacle for self-realization other than thinking that there is something else which is more pleasant than self-realization. If you think so, then there's the greatest obstacle. So therefore, we are not interested, because we are interested in something that is nice, pleasant. If we think that there is something more pleasant, we are not interested in to ask questions, to develop our Krishna consciousness. And why are we thinking that there is something? There is another famous verse which says that if somebody still thinks that there is something of value in this material world which is not connected to Krishna, then he is just like a person who, in his dream, he dreams that he has awakened. You know, like we have these horror movies. I remember you have this guy, he's sleeping. Okay, then he wakes up. He looks around. It's something very frightening. Then he's so scared that, and he wakes again, and then this time, okay, then everything is okay. So in your dream, you are awakened, but actually it's a dream in the dream. So this is the situation. This is our situation in a sense, until we don't understand, don't realize that the only thing that we're supposed to be doing is to serve Krishna. And why is this so? There is a term, I think from Madhura Kanambini, Asat Trishna. It means a thirst for Asat. Very thirsty, very eager to come in contact with something which is illusory. Just like usually they give the example of in the desert, there is a mirage in the desert, and the poor animals, they run after this water that is not actually there, and by running, they become exhausted, more exhausted, and there is no water, and then they become more thirsty, and then they die. So I think that the deepest level of causation here is that we want to be Krishna, and we still cannot accept that we are not Krishna, and then we are still trying to maintain some kind of illusory identification, false identification. Therefore, we are not interested so much in the reality. Just like when you're in a movie theater, and then the first thing they do is well, not the first thing is advertisement. They get so much, like 20 minutes, they bombard you with ads, but then they switch off the lights, and then the real world around you ceases to exist. And then when the illusion starts, then what happens when you're very engrossed in the illusion, then somebody turns on the light and you're very disturbed because you want to be in illusion. This is better than what is the reality. And some people play computer games also. Many people play virtual reality. But that's interesting. You know, I was thinking about this. They go into this imaginary reality. Why? Because they think that in this way they will enjoy more. But in this imaginary virtual reality, they're still under the control of the law of karma, right? So it's not just by plugging into some reality that you become the enjoyer. Because in these computer games, there are other people also. And they also want to enjoy. So basically, unless you play some of these old games that there are no real people, you just play the game. It's still super boring. But there are also other people around you. They also want to enjoy, so you cannot actually be an enjoyer. You have to again fight with these people. They will insult you. They will take away your resources if they can. So it doesn't really work. If this was the way to avoid the law of karma just by playing computer game, so it's not the way. Only by surrendering to Krishna. So well, we can speak about this a lot. Why are we not? There is a whole discussion. When are we going to start doing what we know we're supposed to be doing? How long will we be delaying and procrastinating? Like, for example, chanting really carefully around the moon. Okay. So Adhikarana 1, lessons 1 to 5. All living entities are eternal and subordinate to God. This replies to these two doubts. First of all, is there an eternal spirit soul different from the material body? And if such soul exists, is it fully identical with Godhead? So if all living entities are eternal, so this is, there is an eternal soul. And if they are subordinate, that means that they cannot be completely identical with the Supreme, because they are servants of the Supreme, they are not the Supreme themselves. Lesson 1, the constitution of all living entities. And here, Srila Prabhupada gave reference. And the reference is from the very beginning of Bhagavad-gītā, from the beginning of 2nd chapter. Here, the nature of the spirit soul is described by Krishna. So, I'm going to read. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Ashochanam Ashochistam Pragivadam Shabasha Segatasam Agatasam Nano Shochanti Pandita. Similar statement was made by Jada Bharata when he was talking to Maharaja Raghunath. Maharshi Rahuna, he although he recognized Jalabharata's genuine saintly person, he had his doubts, and when he heard about the spirit soul, when he heard this radical spiritual doctrine that we are not the body, we have nothing to do with the body, with the soul, the body is something else. He had some doubts, and he voiced his doubts in a very interesting way. He said, just like when you have when you cook sweet rice on the fire, then there is a pot, there's a fire, then there is a pot, and then the fire heats up the pot, and then the pot heats up the milk, right? And then the milk heats and cooks the grain, the rice. So we're not the body, but just like rice is not the body, it's not rice is different from the pot, different from the milk. But when there is a heat, then rice gets cooked. So in the same way, when the body is disturbed, the soul also is disturbed because the soul is in the body. Very logical. And then Jalabharata told him, it's very nice what you're saying, but those who actually know, they never speak like you. You sound very sophisticated and very learned. But those who are truly learned, they never speak like you speak. In the same way, Krishna tells Arjuna, you sound very learned, but those who are wise, they don't speak like you. Nanu shochanti panditaka. Those who are pandits, they don't lament like you, so that means you're not a pandit, although you try to present yourself as one. Knowledge means to know chitta chitta nishvara. So this small word point is it comes before the purport, right? Before the accept of the purport of Sri Prabhupada. So it is an attempt to summarize the whole purport, the whole accept. So that's what it is. Knowledge means to know chitta chitta nishvara. So what is chitta chitta nishvara? What is chit? Yes, the soul. Achit is the material nature. Nishvara is Krishna. So knowledge, real knowledge means to know the position of these three. So this is, there is another way how we call this. It's called Sambandha Dhyan. And since we're in the section of Sambandha, of Thematic Study Bhagavad-gītā, so this is the topic. Knowledge means to know Chitta, Chitta, Nishvara, the matter, the spirit, and the controller of both. One who knows this is considered a learned man, not somebody who knows so many details about how the material creation works. If he's not aware of the soul, the position of the material nature and God, he's not truly learned man. So then next verse, 12. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. The Lord is the maintainer of all living entities. So now Sri Prabhupada explains in the purport. In the Upanishads, it is explained that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities. The Lord says clearly that He Himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their conditioned and in their liberated situations. Since their individuality existed in the past, exists in the present, and will continue in the future without interruption, there is no cause for lamentation for anyone. So here, Krishna defeats the Mayavad philosophy, because the Mayavad is what they say. They say that the individuality of the soul is something illusory. It's an illusion. And when the illusion is destroyed by knowledge, then this sense of being separate individual personality is vanquished. Or not really vanquished, but you become conscious, you become aware that you are the only person that exists. You are Tat-Tvamasi, you are that. But also, it is not exactly like this, because it is a, they describe it as pure consciousness, but this consciousness is impersonal. It's not a person. It's very difficult to understand. Therefore, when you start pressing them, the Mayavadis at this point, they, for example, okay, if we accept that what you say is true, is that the ultimate reality is pure consciousness, which is impersonal, is not a person, then how the personalities came about? From where did they appear? Because you can think of a person who is behaving in an impersonal way, right? Let's say somebody didn't behave properly with you, and then as a reaction to this improper behavior, you may decide to give him a cold shoulder for a while. You may decide to ignore this person. You enter the room, he's there, and you just don't pay attention to him. You don't even look at him. You don't talk to him. So, and you talk to others inside, but not to this person. So this is a example of person who behaves in a personal way. But we don't see the other example, the other way around example. Something impersonal, we don't see that it becomes a person who behaves in a personal way. So unless there is a person who is origin of everything, then we cannot explain this material world. Because there is another problem, because this impersonal, this pure consciousness, which is not a person, if he, maybe it doesn't have desires, then it's not possible to explain the world, because the world came out of the desire of the Lord, Bahusyam. Krishna wanted to share his opulence, he wanted to give chance of all conditioned souls to come back home to Godhead. Therefore, as act of compassion, he gave opportunity to all of us to be alive. There is a purpose, there is a goal, but this Nirguna Brahman doesn't have any goal, no desires, no feelings, no anything. So therefore, when you press them on these points and many other illogical points, for example, what is Maya? Because although they claim they are monists, and there is only Brahman, somehow there is also Maya. So what is Maya? How do you explain Maya? It's not supposed to be there. Maya is not supposed to exist. They say anirvachaniya, that means you cannot speak about this. It's unexplainable. It's cannot understand. Still, they claim all these things which are illogical. What is Maya? It's just the magic of Brahman. But is Maya real or not real? Maya exists or doesn't exist? They say it's neither real nor unreal, neither it exists nor doesn't exist. Yeah.
Very easy way to come out of a healthy situation.
It's like we play cards and there's the joker. So if you get the joker, then you win the game. But you don't win actually. Because Ishpanishad explains that these people, Mayavadis who are offenders of the world, they never go out of the material universe. They stay. Although they may seem to be very advanced, even liberated, but they are never liberated because they offend the Lord. If you offend the Lord, you can never get liberation. Let alone Vaikuntha, Goloka, that's not possible. So this answers the doubt whether the soul is completely identical with the Lord. Okay, so here Srila Prabhupada writes, the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their conditioned and in their liberated situations. So even when the jiva, the soul, becomes liberated, still the Lord is there, and still the Lord is the master, and with the servants. Of course, when we become very advanced in devotional service, then the Lord becomes subordinate to the pure love of the devotees, but this is something different. Okay, the living entities are eternal individualities. The Mayavadi theory that the individuality exists only in the conditioned state, and that after liberation, the individual soul merges into the impersonal Brahman and loses its individual existence, is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, Supreme Authority. Krishna clearly says herein that the individuality of the Lord and of others is an eternal fact. Thus, the plurality of the individual soul and of the Lord is an eternal fact, and it is confirmed by the Vedas, as above mentioned. Okay, so somebody wants to read the next one, 213.
As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change.
There is no cause for limitation on account of death. The individual soul is sure to attain another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, and thus there is no cause for limitation on account of death. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of the bodies. So when Arjuna was presented this knowledge, he was still not satisfied, because he understood all this and he accepted it, but he expressed his disappointment that he will be separated from his beloved guru and teacher, Dharmacharya, grandfather Bhishma, etc. So when he expressed this, Krishna told him, yes, but still have to tolerate. This is sukha dukkha samekita. Happiness and distress are coming and going, and we have to tolerate, and also we have to we should better rejoice, because they will rejuvenate their bodies, they will attain younger bodies, and it will be better, even if they attain material bodies. So then the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces. Okay. Cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable, against the principle of the supreme souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called kshara, that is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. Kshara, sarvani, kshara, akshara, evacha. Dvafimal purusha, okay, kshara, akshara, evacha. Kutas kshara uchite. Okay, that is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. Okay. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of God. Yes.
Technical question. These are all purports from Bhagavad-gītā.
Excepts, not the full purport.
Yes.
And this is a like a summary of the main point. This is what in the bullet point.
Mm-hmm.
So that while reading the purport, you will know what to look for, in which light to understand it better. But it's not by Prabhupada, it's by us. We put this. Prabhupada didn't do it. Just to make it clear. The individual soul. Yeah, but these are the purpose, his purpose. The individual soul is inferior to Godhead. So here again, we're dealing with this doubt whether the soul is completely identical with God or not. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna. The supreme soul is the personality of God, Sri Krishna. Notice here, Prabhupada doesn't say is represented by. Okay, the individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, but the supreme soul is not represented by Sri Krishna because he is the supreme soul, right? If a impersonalist would write this commentary, he would probably phrase it in this way. This is the representation of Brahman. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. Why in the 4th chapter? What's happening in the beginning of the 4th chapter?
When he surrenders.
When he surrenders.
No, I did it before too, but
because in the 4th chapter there was a question. Vivasvan is the Sangha. He is much older than you. How come you have given him this image? And then Krishna explains, Bhakuni me vyatitani Janmani tava charjuna. You remember all of them, but you don't remember all of them. And then Krishna says, Mam tu vedana kaschana. I know everyone. But me, nobody knows. Imagine such a position. And Krishna can reveal himself, but if he doesn't reveal it, nobody knows. But he knows everyone. Amazing. So therefore, the beginning of 4th chapter, this is established again. But they are not on the same level, the individual soul and the supreme. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If you have seen this movie about Madhvacharya, sometimes we watch also devotional movies. We don't just watch karma movies. Sometimes we watch devotional. So you watch this movie, Madhvacharya. So remember when the small Madhva was Vasudev. He was in the Gurukul. Then the very first day, then his Guru Achyuta Praksha, he started teaching him. All the brahmacharis, they were collecting alms, running here and there, but he's a sannyasi, although he's very young. And sannyasi has to study Vedanta. So he had different set of duties. So the Guru would sit and just teach him, and then they started with the some very famous work of some very famous Marvadi who was advertised by Achyuta Praksha as the true voice of Shankaracharya, of Adi Shankaracharya, so Marvadi Guru. And they were studying a word that was the opening of the word was the author offers obeisances, humble obeisances to himself. That's how it begins, because he's
Narayana.
Yes, Narayana. And then when Madhvacharya heard this, he interrupted his guru and said, well, okay, if this is true, if indeed he is Narayana, then what's the meaning of our relationship right now? What are we doing right now? If I am you and I am Narayana and you are Narayana, why I am the student and you are the teacher? What you have to offer to me? And then the guru became so upset that the lesson finished right there. There was no more teaching. The guru just. These are very cultured people. There was no, like, if something like this happens amongst more uncultured people, they would have been yelling and throwing stuff around. The guru just stood up
They called him for lunch.
Yes, the Guru just stood up and left, and he went to his place, and he sat down and started studying Vedanta, and then Madhvacharya did the same when they were looking at each other from time to time. From a distance, and then they called them for lunch. Oh, first the other sannyasi. There was another sannyasi there, elderly sannyasi. He came and to both of them, because the sannyasis, they have a specific time to go for begging. So it was the time to go for begging, and then he went and he said, and then both of them, they said, no, I'm not going for rounds. And then they called him for lunch. And then the Guru said, anger will be my lunch today. So exactly the same point stated here. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then the relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy, Maya, then there is no need for one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction will be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity, Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya. So this position of authority is very important for us to accept and to understand, because we will be either under the authority of material nature or under the authority, direct authority of Krishna. In both cases, we will be under Krishna's control. But in the first case, we'll be given to Maya to be controlled by. And in the second case, Krishna will actually be our personal controller. First, he will control us personally. And not only that, but we can also control him, because then the dynamic of the relationships will change. Because these are personal relationships. And when there is pure love, then everything becomes different. Of course, the Mayavadis, they have another theory here, something like Bahuda Anuvritis, something like this. So they say, regarding this point, they say that the teacher, the Guru, he still can teach, although he's liberated. And so because when you're liberated, right, according to them, when you're liberated, when you're Narayana, you're liberated. You don't see anymore. You're not in illusion yourself to distinguish between this individuality or that individuality. So you understood that we all one, so you cannot constitute a student in your consciousness. There is no student anymore, although there is a material body, let's say, sitting in front of you. But you know it's an illusion. He's actually me. We are the same. So the process of teaching cannot take place. This is what the Vaishnavas, this is how the Vaishnavas attack the Mayavadis. You know, we're always supposed to attack the Mayavadis. You know, this is our constitutional position, at least that's the tradition of our Sampradaya. And we're always supposed to attack them, not just wait until they come. No, we have to go there and attack them. And of course, this kind of discussions before, they were taking long time, because there was it took long time to write a work in Sanskrit, and then the other camp, they will read this work. Okay, these are the new arguments, the Vaishnavas. Okay, so let's prepare. So it took generations back and forth. Now it's now all these arguments, if somebody knows, they can be exchanged in a few hours over the internet if you're in some forum and debate with some rabbi. If you're knowledgeable, then you can use all these astras very quickly. But before, it took time. And there was no internet, and only certain people knew the language Sanskrit. Now everybody can type online. So it was taking lots of time. So anyway, the Vaishnavas were making the point. We were making the point that, wait a minute, if what you claim is true, and then once somebody attains perfection, then he doesn't distinguish anymore between you and me, because there is no duality, right? There is monism. Then the process of teaching cannot take place. The reply to this, by the Mayavadis, is it can still take place because the liberated soul still maintains some residue of illusion in his consciousness, which enables him to distinguish between different individualities, although he knows that ultimately this is an illusion. And therefore, he can still do it.
So he is fully liberated and at the same time fully illusion. Either you are in illusion.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah. So he's fully liberated. And at the same time, he's fully in illusion because he wholeheartedly takes very seriously this process of teaching. And also the words are illusion, by the way. Therefore, Prabhupada was challenging this. Writing books, that's an illusion. Why you write books? So then to this argument, which is absurd, the Vaishnavas also replied. There is a Vaishnavas that replied to all arguments, no matter how absurd they are. So the reply from Anuja, I think was anyway, I think the Sri Vaishnavas, not sure exactly. Anyway. The reply to this was that even if we accept that this is possible, this fragmentation of the consciousness of this Jivan Mukta person, he is liberated in this material body, he's Jivan Mukta, but he's still teaching. Even if we accept that this is possible, that there is some traces of illusion which don't interfere with his realization of Brahman. Even if we accept this, still the teaching cannot take place. Why? Because he won't be motivated to teach. Just like when you're in the desert and you see that there is a mirage, there is a false image of water, you understand that this is an illusion. You don't run after this illusion to fetch water. In the same way, even if he somehow manages to have this both liberated and conditioned consciousness, he will not be motivated to teach, because you don't do this. It's useless. You don't run after the illusion in the desert when you know it's an illusion. You run only when you are sure it is real water. Only then you'll make the endeavor. So that's how they defeat this. So this argument stands here. It has been accepted. They have been back and forth. Of course, maybe they came up with something new now. This had been. This is from Bhagavad-gītā's commentary, so it's a while ago. All right. So then, who wants to read the next two verses?
O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation.
Okay, next.
Those who are sealed for the truth have concluded that of their non-existence, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the journey of the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both.
Ignorance is removed by re-establishing the relationship between the soul and the Lord. So here, we are answering which doubt? This verse 216. There are two major doubts that are answered in this section. So which one is this?
Soul and God are equal.
Yeah. And there's another one. Is there a soul at all?
Right.
So I think this one is more, of course it's connected to the one that you said, but I think it's more connected to, is there a soul at all? No? Those who see us in the truth have concluded that.
Not a relationship. So that already means you understand that there's a soul, but it's answering whether it's identical or not. And the answer is that it's not, because the relationship is that one is right.
Yeah, so both.
Both.
Yeah. Ignorance is removed. Okay. The difference between matter and spirit is that matter is ever changing, and spirit is eternal. It doesn't mean that spirit is frozen in time. This is the Plato's idea. He had this idea of the myth of the cave and the ideal world. Very interesting. This world that we perceive, he said, is the reflection of the real world, which is the world of the ideas. Means this table is the original table in the ideal world, which is perfect. And this is a reflection of this perfect table there. And everything is like this. The problem with this ideal world is that it's frozen, it's static, it's terrifying when you try to contemplate. Nothing happens there. All these forms are just frozen in time. There is no time there. Because time, material time, and apparently this was his understanding of time. The time must be material. The time deteriorates objects. So if this is the ideal table, there cannot be time there, because time means degradation. So the Vedantic idea about the eternal spirit is not static, it's dynamic. It's eternally eternally increasing bliss, which is very dynamic. Because bliss increases only when there are dynamic relationships between living entities. From static. This is the beginning of the instruction by the Lord to living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves the re-establishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, re-establishing the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by, watch out now, one can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself. How about this? The difference between oneself and the Supreme should be understood as the relationship between the part and the whole. The living entities are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as in the case of the master and the servant. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance, and to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad-gītā for the enlightenment of all living entities for all time. To 17.
understanding the thorough study of oneself.
Yeah. So what does it mean?
Is it like because there's so much similarity between our character and Krishna's character? By inductive knowledge, you can come to some conclusions. Like, okay, I'm eternal, the Lord is eternal, I'm blissful, the Lord is blissful.
Supremely blissful.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And also thorough study. That means while studying yourself, you understand the full picture that you're part of Krishna. So this is the thorough study. So then you understand the similarities, and you understand the differences also. This is thorough study. Otherwise, it's a partial study. You just see yourself, but you don't see the Lord. It's more, as you said, inductive. But here it is more avaroha banga, right? Deductive knowledge. But there are some similarities. And Srila Prabhupada said we are small Krishnas. Yes.
It's interesting that Prabhupada is relating here difference with the relationship.
One can understand the nature of the Supreme by the concept. Here, the difference between oneself and the Supreme should be understood as the relationship between the part and the whole. Yes. So this is how we are different from the Supreme. Because we are part and he is the whole. We're part of something. We're not everything. We're part of something. We're not the whole sum total of existence. We're a small part of greater.
So basically, this difference is defining the relationship.
Mm-hmm. So this is the main differences. There are others, but they are coming from this one, like Prabhupada explains. We are conscious about our body, Krishna is conscious of our bodies. It's the difference between the Paramatma and Atma. Krishna is independent, we are dependent. Okay, next. The last.
That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness is the proof of the presence of the soul within the body. The consciousness pervades the entire body. That is the proof of the presence of the soul. The influence of the soul is spread all over the body as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that is the proof of the presence of the soul. The material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. This soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size, and is situated in the heart. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as overpervading the Vishnu Tattva.
Thank you. So, very short paragraph from Prabhupada's purport explains the nature of the consciousness, which is a big problem for the modern materialistic science. They have no clue how to explain consciousness. There are different attempts, especially those who are more materialistic ones. Some of them say that consciousness cannot exist because their point is that we are matter, we're material, and obviously the consciousness is not material. It's not a typical material phenomenon because you cannot really measure it, you cannot touch it, you cannot see it under the microscope. So how do you explain it then? If only matter exists. And some of them go to the extreme to say that it is an illusion. It doesn't really exist. It's not supposed to be there, consciousness. But even those who accept the consciousness, they cannot explain it, because they don't accept the soul. The Prabhupada here explains consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Consciousness means that we are aware of ourselves and the environment. We are aware, we are conscious about our individual existences, individual living entities. Okay, so, and then this point here, the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. Okay, then next. The material body of the undestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight or descend the body. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the soul slain, not and nor is slain. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. The soul is free from the 6 changes of the body. The body is subject to 6 kinds of transformations. It takes its birth from the womb of the mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effects, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, does not deteriorate like material objects and has no byproducts. Therefore, the soul is free from the 6 changes of the body. Okay, so it's good to realize this. Then we'll be free from old age, from disease. We won't be influenced by these things. The consciousness of the soul is inferior to the consciousness of the supersoul. The soul is full of knowledge, or full always with consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is a symptom of the soul. Even if one does not find the soul within the heart, where he is situated, one can still understand the presence of the soul simply by the presence of consciousness. This consciousness of the soul is, however, different from the consciousness of the Supreme, because the Supreme Consciousness is all knowledge, past, present, and future. The consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. When he is forgetful of his real nature, he obtains education and enlightenment from the superior lessons of Krishna. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. The soul does not become one with God after liberation. That's important. Even after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separated entity, as is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjuna. Arjuna became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. So at the end, Arjuna says, Nashta moha smriti labda mat prasadat Fat prasada maya chuta. Stitusi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava. Krishna, Arjuna says, my illusion is gone, and now I will carry on your instructions. That means he's liberated from illusion. Still, he did not become Krishna There is no description in Bhagavad-gītā at all. And then when Arjuna said this, everybody saw a small spark entering the body of Krishna. And even if this would have happened, it doesn't mean that he became one with Krishna, because this has happened with Shishupala, for example, but he did not merge with the Lord. He just attained liberation. Okay. This individual soul is unbreakable and unsolvable, and can be neither born nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. So what is immovable here? How the soul is immovable? Okay, the other things kind of clear. Unbreakable, can be neither burnt nor dried, is everlasting. Present everywhere means what? Does it mean that we're present right now? I'm present in the temple as well, or in Europe, or in America? What does it mean that the soul is present everywhere?
In the body.
Not your soul. The soul in general.
Right. The soul in general. So that means that can inhabit any space, even on the sun. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that we are all pervading. Unchangeable. Unchangeable means
It doesn't go through this transformation.
right. Okay, and immovable. What is immovable? How is the soul immovable? I asked this once, one of my teachers, and he told me that means that the soul never changes his position as a soul. The soul always remains subordinate to God. The constitutional position of the soul never changes, therefore it's immovable. You cannot move the soul. Not that the soul cannot move from here to Calcutta. He can, but his position cannot be changed. The dharma of the soul cannot be altered. And then, okay. The intelligent souls aspire for the Lord's association. After liberation from material contamination, the atomic soul may prefer to remain as a spiritual spark in the effulgent rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the intelligent souls enter into the spiritual planets to associate with the Personality of Godhead. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. The soul is understood only through Shastra, Yonit 5. The soul is inconceivable by human empirical knowledge, and therefore it is not possible to prove the existence of the soul experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul. That means we don't have knowledge about the soul, because the soul is beyond our material knowledge. But we have access to the spiritual knowledge, to Shabda Brahma, and then through this we can understand the soul. So then the question is, well, if this is spiritual knowledge, okay, you say you cannot understand the spiritual reality because you have material senses. We are conditioned. Our senses are limited, etc. The mind, intelligence are limited and material. But then you say that you can understand the spiritual, even experience the spiritual reality through the spiritual sound of the Vedas, right? That's what they say. So how is this possible? You don't have access to spiritual reality in one sense, but then you say you have an access to spiritual sound. Isn't this contradiction? How do you answer? Well, if you have access to the spiritual sound, then why don't you just access the spiritual reality and see for yourself? Why you need to listen to this sound? Because some people say the the Vedas. This is just material sound vibration. You can hear it with material eyes, material ears. You can read it. This is material paper. So, what do you say to this? Or we'll leave it for the next time because it's 11:29. That's the homework question.
That's a very good food for thought.
Okay, so shall we stop here then? Okay. Om Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samvat Bhakti ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.